Guten Morgen. I hope you guys are doing well. I know I am, because I feel in some respects I'm doing the Lord's work by educating or attempting to educate my people and not allowing them to be held in the clutches of charlatans, imposters, and devious, avaricious, rapacious politicians. There is no nobler good than to educate your fellow man. This is nothing new to me. At age 17, I had the pleasure, in some respects, of going back to my old high school and doing a little teaching stint. And then I went to Barclays Bank to work. So I believe in some respects that penchant for teaching is innate within me. So today, we are going to start off with a little definition that's going to add some clarity generally to the political discourse in Grenada. Because I realize, again, as I have said, many of you are very upset. Some of you have become vicious, but you know who you're dealing with. Because the harder you come is the harder I will come and I will fight. So do yourselves a favor, okay? Back down, sit down and listen to some truths. Educate yourself, and then in the process, you'll uplift yourself, and at the same time, you wouldn't get hoodwinked by devious politicians. Because there's no backing down here. So get used to it. The more abrasive and vicious you get, it's the harder I will come. And I know for some of you, truth is like some sort of kryptonite. It's like some sort of acid or something. Once it gets on you, you start screaming and you start melting, okay? And then you lash out. So I know what I'm saying is true. And I dare anyone, especially y'all idols that you guys worship, I dare them to refute anything I have said. Okay? A matter of fact, let's do it better. Tell them get the big representative, Perkins and Wills. Tell them come. I'll ask them some questions so that Perkins and Wills could expose them. But you know what? Perkins and Wills already leveled them. And I told you, I know these people. I interact with them. Okay? I work and cooperate. So I know how these people operate. And at all levels too. Some of them, I'm their boss. So I dare you guys, make Perkins and Wills accessible and available to the Grenadian people so they can ask them questions. Okay? And these people have integrity to protect. Don't let me have to make a phone call to them. Okay? Have them accessible to the Grenadian people so the Grenadian people can ask them questions. So for all of you who say, oh, this guy don't love Grenada. Oh, this guy don't want to improve healthcare in Grenada. Well, I am telling you that you're totally misguided. Quite to the contrary, I actually want improved healthcare in Grenada. Okay? Many of you may not know I have vested interest in Grenada. So I want to see Grenada progress. Okay? If Grenada progresses, I and my family and my friends, we all progress. That is the mentality we have. We don't have the mentality like you guys may have of us against them. Again, at the Grenada Social Democratic Party, it's one Grenada. Okay? For all. Not for some. Not for petty bourgeois. Okay? Not for you to ride the middle class as some sort of donkeys. Okay? While you live rich and while you use the machinations of government to enrich yourself. No. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Those days in politics are over. So when y'all saying y'all love Grenada, I know this guy ain't love Grenada. Y'all love Grenada? Y'all are hypocrites your own self. Okay? Because y'all in love Grenada. You know what y'all love? Y'all are obsessed and you guys are fanatical. Okay? Within your little crew. That's what you are. And you don't even realize that these people at the upper echelons in the party are playing you. Just think about it. People who parachuted into a party. You think they really love or care about that party? These people saw opportunity. If George Brezan saw his party today, okay? If he saw what the NDC had become, this gentleman would have been in tears, okay? There is no NDC. That so-called NDC has been hijacked by socialist Marxists, okay? And a bunch of incompetent, imposters who parachuted into the party. That is why everything they do unravels. Okay? That is a curse that follows them. For hijacking the party, for trying to deceive Grenadian people, okay? For trying to seize a party where true Grenadian patriots work their asses off to build that party, and you come in and you parachute in, okay? And you're doing what you're doing. That is why a curse follows you, okay? That is why everything you guys touch, it turns to stone, like Medusa. So don't come and talk this stuff about all your love, Grenada. All you love, Grenada, okay? It takes courage. Okay, it takes courage and it takes true love to do what I am doing. That is true love. What is love? Love is the ability and the willingness to sacrifice for the very thing or person you love. So I know some of you might have grown up without love, but I'll tell you this, I was lucky. I grew up around men and women and people who love me, okay? And they still do, okay? So don't think, there's tons of them that still love me, okay? And I grew up around them. I have brothers, I have sisters, I have aunties, okay? I have uncles. Some of them not even biological, but they have intense love and respect for me, and it's mutual because they nurtured me and made me into the man that I am today, okay? Keep telling you guys, I grew up and I have nothing but love for the men and women that I grew up around in the Green Street car in Nigeria because these people taught me how to fight, okay? And to fight for what is right. These people, okay, these are serious men of cojones. And when it mattered most, they stood up for their territory and for their land. So you guys can't teach me nothing. I know what is love. I've seen love from these people, okay? Intense love. And that is why it is within me to extend that love now to my country, okay? But I know all you see it on television. Kakadimo Grant would have been from the Guave area, okay? But guess what? He used to be in the Cooper Hill area. Remember what he said? And I know all you see it on TV. Remember what he said? He said when he was young, he thought that a man should love a woman or something. But then as he grew older, he said that he understood that a man should love his country. Okay? Should love his country. And y'all talking about y'all love. If y'all love Grenada, you know what? You guys would have never sit back idly and see what is happening. Okay? And say nothing. In some respects, you're hypocrites and cowards. Okay? Because you're intimidated. What people have you become? What people have you become? I ain't grew up around people like that. The people I grew up around are people of character. People who are bold. People who are brave. Okay? And I wouldn't trade that for anything. Don't talk about the women I grew up around. Y'all know them. Y'all know them women I grew up around. These are intensely strong, tough women. Okay? I'm cut from the cloth of this intensely strong woman. Those who know, they know. So when you see me being who I am, that is a combination of things. That is a combination of the cloth from which I was cut. That is a combination of the people I grew around. That is a combination of the environment in which I grew. Okay? So all of you talking about you love Grenada, stop your nonsense. And you guys don't even know. There are people who truly love Grenada that don't say anything. Okay? And these are my friends. Okay? How do you think I know what I know? These are people who are national patriots. But they don't say nothing. But they love Grenada. Okay? These people are my brothers and sisters. More so in some respects than even blood brothers and sisters. Okay? And that is why they're able to be candid with me and let me know what's going on in my country. They love Grenada. Okay? You know a gentleman who loves Grenada? You know a gentleman who loves Grenada? A Green Street young gentleman. When he left school, he served Grenada intensely. Okay? He served Grenada intensely in the police force. Okay? And the SSU. And the RSS and all that sort of stuff. Okay? That gentleman, and I want to respect and show some love to that gentleman. Okay? That gentleman is Derek Benjamin. Okay? We just call him P-Wax. That gentleman, that Green Street man love his country. Okay? That is the first man. When you guys almost lost, when you guys almost lost that money, the UK SIF money, guess what? That gentleman called me. He said, look, Perry, I got a guy in there, he's having a little bit of problems. And, he's not really familiar with this sort of drawings and this sort of project. So guess what? They're trying to go, I think it was to Barbados to meet with the British guys to try to recover some of the money for that UK SIF project. Okay? He said, Perry, I want you to talk with my dude and kind of give him a little heads up of how to handle this, you know. So me and this gentleman, or this gentleman and I, had several conversations, hours upon hours, discussing that project so he could have been prepared. Okay? That is why when they went to Barbados to discuss with the British, they were able to recover some of that money. Because the gentleman went there with a level of confidence. Okay? And he could then explain and discuss with these people so he wasn't lost. That is a gentleman, Derek Benjamin, PWAX, who loves his country. Okay? Who loves his country. And he was so upset. Subsequently, you know, with the gentleman, he said, why didn't you keep in touch with my man to continue to help you certain things? Okay? Either way, I didn't care. But the gentleman loves his country. And after a while, he was so frustrated. He said, you know what? I'm done talking. I'm done talking. And everything that gentleman said, in some respects, about the unraveling of this current administration was spot on. Was spot on. But you people won't know that. You don't know who are my friends in the society. I know people throughout the society, okay? From the bottom to the middle to the top, throughout the society. And I love and respect them, and they love and respect me. So you Johnny-come-latelys, all you just like them, this new administration, okay? And the leaders of the administration who parachuted into NDC. You guys parachuted into the NDC, okay? Just like them. Just like them, you parachuted into NDC. Because you know why? You guys love easy, okay? You don't want to struggle for nothing. You don't want to fight for nothing, but you like victory. And that is why you guys parachuted into the NDC, pretending you're some big NDCites. I'm more NDCite than all you. For the last 30 years in Brooklyn, all my friends throughout NDC, okay? The chapter, NDC New York chapter, are my friends. I went to all their functions, okay? That's why you see I was able to go up when they had that watch party, and you saw the love I got among them. You know why? Because you know I'm honest and genuine, and I have love for Grenada. Okay? That is why they're so receptive. That is why many of your big honchos in NDC chapter in New York are my friends. Some of them 30, 40 years friendship. Okay? So when you see I speak, you little vicious punks who are disrespectful, you have no place. I have earned the right to say what I say. Okay? Get that straight. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get to the definition of what is a fanatic. Okay? We're going to add some clarity to political discourse in Grenada. The Grenada Social Democratic Party would add some clarity to political discourse in Grenada. We're going to change the landscape. Okay? It's going to be a fight and a struggle. But we are going to change the landscape. And we're going to start by not allowing politicians who have power and want to maintain power bamboozling our people. We are going to hold them accountable, and we are going to expose the deception and the sinister plots against the Grenadian people. Because that's what it is. It's not for the Grenadian people. It is against the Grenadian people. So, let's get to our definition of a fanatic. A fanatic is a person with extreme, uncritical, that means you can't criticize them, or obsessive enthusiasm for a cause, belief, or hobby, often leading to unreasonable behavior. Like many people by now understand and know, all the vicious and vitriolic behavior on social media by people who say they're part of NDC, you guys don't realize you do NDC an injustice, okay? You do them an injustice by your behavior. You're not attracting new followers. You're turning people off. But the people at the upper echelon of the party, they like that because they want to create that us against them dynamic in Grenada. They want to pit the Grenadian people against each other. And when they pit the Grenadian people against each other, they are the ones that win. They want you to despise and in some respects hate your fellow man. Because they know if the Grenadian people come together and have cordial discussions, have rational, reasonable, and critical thinking discussions, guess what? They themselves will be exposed. So they want you to always be thinking emotionally. That's what keeps them in power. Because in some respects, you get blinded by your emotion. But we are going to change this. Rooted in the 16th century Latin fanaticus, inspired by a god or temple, the term evolved from insane to mean overly zealous, especially in politics or religion. And all you call it being apes. Look at your behavior. Look at your behavior. Look at your motives and intentions. What are my intentions? My intentions are noble. My intentions are to educate and liberate the Grenadian people from the clutches of charlatans, okay, incompetence, and imposters. Okay? What are you guys' intentions? What are you guys' intentions? Just spit vitriolic statements against each other. Look what you do to each other. Look what you do to each other. Try to tear each other down. So let's continue. Key aspect of fanatical behavior. Psychological factors driven by a desire for certainty, perfection, and meaning. Fanatics often exhibit intense emotional investment, cognitive rigidity, and a need to belong. That's exactly what's going on with you guys. And I understand, and in some respects, it is sad. Some of you want to belong to something, okay? But you are looking for love in all the wrong places. These people are not there to embrace you and love you and nurture you. They are there to use you as props in big political theater. They are there to use you to uplift and enrich themselves. Okay? And then they give you a little emotional comfort and sweet little words and mama guy you, as we would say. Okay? For their empowerment. This is what this is about. I know it's very hard to see through this because you're emotionally vested. You understand? And years will come when you will look back at all of this and you say, oh my gosh, how did I get duped by all of this? You know, you're going to curse your younger self. Say, holy shit, what happened? How did I get caught up? You're like, holy crap, how did I get caught up in all of this? Don't worry, as you mature a little and you educate yourself a little more, you will see that change happen. And it's sad in some respects that people who know better within the society, who are a little older, who are a little more experienced, do not take the time to try to educate and help liberate the younger folks. Because the younger folks are more driven by passion. So in some respects, I'm sympathetic to them. You see what I'm saying? Because I understand what they're going through. But you, grown people, I always say this over and over. In some respects, if you love your country, you have an obligation to set things straight and to expose improprieties. That is your obligation. But I know why you do it. Some of you, you yourself, you have vested financial interests. You're getting hit off with a little bit of money. Some of you, there are always going to be people who make money off of these sinister and nefarious plots. Okay? There's always going to be people like that. There's always going to be people who are hoodwinked financially. But the mass of people, they don't make money from this. The only thing that's vested is the emotional. Okay? But the one or two or few people at the top are the ones that use you emotionally to enrich themselves financially. That is how it works. And I want you to see through that for what it is. And in some respects, I might give you a penny on a dollar. So anybody that says anything about Polaris, oh, he or she doesn't like Polaris. That is not the case. Quite to the contrary, we are the ones who have love for Grenada and Grenadians. And we want to make sure that this is done right. If they believe so much in what they're doing, they should not be afraid of scrutiny. Okay? Not at all, by any measure. If you believe and you're confident in what you're doing, and you believe that what you're doing is right and correct, you should welcome scrutiny. You understand? You should welcome people taking a look at what you're doing and explain that, oh, well, this is why we're doing this. But anytime you engage in deception, and again, I'm going to say, you guys are lawyers. You know how it works in the court of law. If a witness is caught in a lie, guess what? the defense attorney or any attorney or prosecutor or whatever would say, it means that everything that the person said before being caught in a lie is also a lie. You guys are lawyers. You're bright. You're paper pushing lawyers. So you should know that. So when you engage in deception, there's great reason to believe that whatever you said to us before was also deception. And there's also great reason to believe that whatever you're going to tell us in the future would also be based on deception. And I'm not sentimental or naive about deception. I understand there is some level of deception in politics and government. But that deception, in many respects, should be for the good, the general good of the population. That is the master. Okay? That's the mastery of politics. That even when you deceive the Grenadian people, you're deceiving them for their betterment. Okay? For their improvement. Okay? Not so you can just enrich yourselves. That's not noble. Okay? It's indecent. It's wicked. So you can come and buy your 89 acres and then you use 15%, okay, for a hospital. But then all you dangle and all you push about that 89 acres is, medical city. Or, a teaching and research hospital. And you guys are good with names. I gotta hand that to you. You see what I'm saying? When you know that that is not your aim, all of this land being bought, it's not for Grenadians. This is for you to get your CBI money and to sell these lands at reduced prices, okay, to your buddies and your partners. You think I don't know what's going on? I know all too well what's going on. That is why you guys put or purchase this thing under the Grenada Asset Company, okay? Because that company was created by government for what? To deal with distress loans. Properties that have distress loans and properties that have issues with them. You know, possibly in foreclosure, government, there's too much problems with property, right? So that is why this asset limited was created. Okay? So the question is the Calivigny estate a distress property? Is it a property that have issues, loans and stuff like that? Because that is what this company was created for by government. But I know your ulterior motive and plot here. I know what is at work. You're trying to label it as a distressed property or have distressed loans or whatever, and you purchase it now, so you have it in that separate bank or account, so to speak, okay? So then you can make deals with your friends and your colleagues and other investors and give them reduced prices and rates for the property, okay? And you guys get your kickbacks. You think I don't know what's happening? Yo, you guys could try to fool some Grenadian people, okay? Your modus operandi is such that it tells me that you have no respect for the Grenadian people. I mean, it's just so disrespectful, you know? It's like, I'm assuming that you're thinking that you guys are the smartest guys and the Grenadian people are, unwise. You see what I'm saying? And it's so sad because these in the diaspora, you think they just pretend they're so bright themselves too. You understand? They could come and talk all kind of thing they do. And yet still they're the ones most taken in by this. But I know. You put it as part of this Grenada Asset Limited Company. So what? So you could sell it at reduced rates, under market rates, to your friends, to your associates, and to your so-called investors. So you get your kickback. Okay? And the private property is not the hospital. 10, 12 acres, 15% of the entire property. Okay? So guess what? That 85% is for you to make your buku money on it. Okay? You're going to make some money on the hospital. You already started making money on the hospital. Because I still want you to explain to us what happened to that 21 million. Okay? And then, but the real money is going to be made from your real estate deals other than the hospital. Because hospital is a kind of tricky investment. It's not a money-making venture. Generally, if you look at hospitals, they don't make money like that. Ask Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai had one of the most expensive hospitals. You go to Beth Israel in 14th Street, okay? They'll kill you with charges. And there was so much money for that place. Yet still, it went bankrupt. And it was in Manhattan, 14th Street, okay? And it still went bankrupt. So what makes you think a hospital you building in Calivigny, where people could barely find money for food sometimes? I'm talking generally, okay? That you think they're going to have money to pay for all these medical services. And what makes you think you're going to be able to attract other people who could actually pay to that place? What makes you believe that? So you must first ground yourself in reality. If you want to achieve something, you must be realistic with yourself. Okay? You must. So we understand why you purchased that property with the Grenada Asset Limited. We know why. We understand now. Okay? We know. So you're not fooling us. You may fool those that you're intoxicated with emotional responses, and you got them in such an emotional trance that they can't see. They're not thinking logical. They're not thinking reasonable. So all they say, we're getting a healthcare, we're getting a hospital. So anybody else that holds you accountable and are scientific and methodical about the approaches being used, you label them against the hospital, because that's what you do. Again, you thrive offer that us against them. That us against them. That's what you thrive offer. You understand? You're hell-bent on continuing to divide the Grenadian people. Okay? That's what you're hell-bent on doing. Because in some respects, it creates a sort of cultic unification of your crew. You understand? You have the big king up here, and then you have these lieutenants, and then you have the masses of people. Okay? I see through what you guys are doing. Okay? And I'm going to let the Grenadian people know, and continue to let the Grenadian people know. You might have learned pretty well from the socialist Marxists. Same sort of thing they did. And they all became petty bourgeois. Look, all of them now. All of them is petty bourgeois. And they said Chandong petty bourgeois. On top of they were part of the working class. Part of the proletariat. But there's a bitterness and anger they had towards the Grenadian petty bourgeois. And they wanted to become petty bourgeois. So they used the masses of people to fight and create division in the society and to resent the petty bourgeois. And in the process, they elevated themselves. This is what this same administration is currently doing. Okay? This is what they're doing. Same sort of thing. Fight down the middle class. Fight down small business. Ride the back of the middle class so they can enrich themselves. Use the machinations of government to enrich themselves. Take taxpayers' money, pay them the pension, and say, yeah, we gave you the pension. When you came in and you didn't create $1 yet. You came and you found $500 million. So you take taxpayers' money. You see the game? And you pay them the pension. And you say, it was our doing. We paid the pension. What a disgrace. What you do to Grenadian people is a disgrace. And it's just sad. It's just sad. But the Grenadian Social Democratic Party is here to enlighten, the Grenadian people and to bring awareness. And with that awareness, we're hoping there's education. And with that education, it will translate into total liberation. Total liberation of the Grenadian people from the shackles, from the clutches of incompetence, charlatans, and imposters. This is our noble aim. Guten Tag.